So nice to meet you, Cliff. This is great.
Nice to meet you too. I'm so sorry about the delay
It's okay.
there.
We're about 10 minutes in. We'll get 20 minutes done, and it's no problem at all. So tell me, Cliff, honestly, I don't know you at all. So let's just treat this like we're on our way to a road gig and we've never met each other, but we got to get to know each other. So I see you have plants, and that's about all I know about you, and a beard. Yep. Who are you? Where are you from? What's going on? How did you get into comedy?
I failed at everything else, and I figured, you know what, I can probably talk on stage for an hour. I am from Gastonia, North Carolina. I went from, in my early 20s, I got into the car business. I sold some cars and did pretty good at it. And then I started putting that money into real estate. Then I started flipping houses like really young, probably too young.
Okay.
Was doing really, really good, and then lost it all in the 2008 crash. But I say on stage, if you've ever lost your can I cuss on this thing? I know you're clean.
Yeah, well, usually the way the algorithm works is I think the first 5 minutes you're not supposed to, and we're well past that. So
okay, sorry. I just said, you know, I lost my ass. I say on stage, I lost my ass in 2008, and I know you're thinking, but I didn't lose my house till 2016. And I said, I know you're thinking there's a lot of time in between. To properly lose your ass takes years. It's just a daily kick in the nuts for years. And then I started a recycling business with the last bit of capital that I had from the real estate investing. Once it was very clear that nobody was going to be doing any real estate investing, and from 08 to whatever 2016, ran a recycling business for 8 years and did some environmental activism during that time as well. And finally, kind of sold / closed, walked away from that to be a full-time comic about 10 years ago, and have been just kind of getting by ever since, doing whatever I got to do to keep the dream alive and the lights on.
Heck yeah. And you're still in North Carolina?
I've never lived anywhere else full-time.
Okay.
I've toured all over the place, obviously, and I've spent months at a time in places like Colorado, California, Mexico, Nicaragua, but nice. I've only ever had permanent residence in North Carolina.
Cool. Perfect. We got a hello from the internet from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Nice.
This is a question just for me about recycling. Are they really recycling all the stuff that I'm separating? Or are they just throwing it in the trash?
It really depends on the municipality. Unfortunately, some people, I think what I want to think is most of the time it's getting recycled. Okay. If they've got a 40-yard container full of plastic, and the recycling facility says we're at a max capacity, we just can't take any more for the next 10 days, then that goes in the landfill, which really sucks.
Yeah. Well, as long as they're doing some of it, like sometimes I wonder, like, can they even recycle this stuff, or is it all just,
I'm sure that there are definitely businesses and even municipalities and companies, trash companies. I think there's the whole gamut. I think there's cities that are probably killing it, and they're really actually doing it right, and it's really being handled well, and it makes a difference that genuinely matters. Mm-hmm. And then there are some towns that are probably lying to their residents and saying it's being recycled. Then there's other towns where the municipality probably thinks it is, and the company they're subbing it out to is not.
Right.
There's everything in between.
Sure.
But I
let's not we don't have much time, so I don't want to get too lost in that. So I know you have a van.
Recycling the whole time. That wasn't funny at all.
Actually, that's funny. I do have a chunk on trash and recycling. So maybe we could talk another time. I could add to it. Anyways, so you go all around the country. I'm fascinated by this. Like when you say you lived in San Francisco for a month or longer, what does that mean? How do you find shows? Do you I don't know. Tell me about that.
So when I got serious about stand-up, I learned really quickly the only ways to make it are to be famous, to really make it, or to lower your personal financial footprint and overhead to the point that you can afford to not be famous.
Yeah.
And so I bought a vehicle I could sleep in that was fuel efficient and long enough for me to sleep in without curling up. And it was a station wagon. I removed the front 2 seats, and I would sleep in it wherever I could, wherever I had to. started camping a lot too. And I would just, at the time I was divorced, and she kept the house, and I didn't have a lot of strings, anything holding me back or holding me down. And I would just take off sometimes for like 5 months at a time. Like I would leave North Carolina and come back 5 months later.
Wow. Have you heard of Pat Garrity? Do you know who that is?
Yeah. That's the number one question I get asked from other comedians. Yeah. We haven't met. I've met, we've kind of talked real briefly on social media, but I'd love to meet him and talk to him.
Yeah. Yeah. I
get a very similar thing. And if I didn't have shows for 4 days, I'd find a national park and try to find a free campsite and hike all day, sleep in my tent, go have a pizza, whatever.
Nice. What's your favorite region to visit?
Well, the state of California is just so unbelievably beautiful, from the biggest trees on earth to the Death Valley, which is the lowest place on earth, the hottest place on earth, the Channel Islands and Joshua Tree and Yosemite. And obviously LA is a comedy mecca. And there's some other cool cities too. I love San Diego. I love to surf. So I really love California. I love Colorado for a lot of reasons. My best friend lives in Denver. The comedy scene there is also incredible. And you're relatively close to things like Moab and, cool stuff in New Mexico.
Yeah.
Anywhere that's a fun city, like a forward thinking, city that values diversity and culture. Really any place like that around the country, but the more cool outdoor stuff to do, the better.
Nice. And I assume you also it's a mixture of how fun is it to be there and how productive is it for my comedy career?
Yeah.
There are probably parts of Alaska that would be amazing to go to and spend time in, but there's not probably really a great comedy scene there. So
yeah, and I also do it by the weather because I do want to camp if I can. I got rid of the wagon I had, and now I have a van, a Sprinter van with a bed. So I don't really want to sleep in that van when it's 20 degrees, and I don't want to sleep in that van even when it's 80 degrees. It's real hot.
Does it have heat? Do you have like a?
I have a portable propane heater, but I'd like to one day like rig up a diesel heater and that kind of thing, but. It's pretty primitive. It's high on decor and low on practicality, I like to say.
Yeah.
I have beautiful photos everywhere, but like no roof vent, so.
Right. Do you have a kitchen?
I have a sink and a portable stove, and I keep dishes and pots and pans. And
do you cook regularly, or is it easier to just?
If I'm camping for a long period of time, I do. I'll prep smoothies before a big run. Like I'll make like 5 glass bottles of green smoothie and 5 of orange smoothie. And I'll bring those with me. I usually have jugs of alkaline water, tons of snacks. I mean, if I'm out in nature, like in a national park away from stuff, I'll get groceries and I'll cook every day for 3, 4, or 5 days, whatever.
Yeah. Does it have a fridge?
It has a Yeti cooler, and I have like doubled the insulation. So I've like surrounded that in another box with extra insulation. So it really holds ice unless it's crazy hot. And I try not to go where it's crazy hot.
That's awesome. All right, let's talk about maybe you're driving from North Carolina to Denver. How do you find places to perform? And eventually I want to get into house shows at some point.
Yeah. So this sounds sort of rudimentary and like probably unsurprising and whatever, but a lot of it is just like, footwork, for lack of a better word. It's like internet footwork. It's like, let me map my route. Now let me zoom in and see what cities the route passes through. Let me get on Facebook and see if I'm a member of the Knoxville Comedy Facebook group. I'll search Facebook for comics, people I know in whatever town. That's getting harder to do on Facebook, but up until pretty recently, you could go to your search bar and type "my friends who live in Detroit, Michigan," and it would list everyone that that lives in that town, that lists that town as their hometown. So I would do that and reach out and I go, I know 5 comics in Orlando, Florida. Let me message them and see what kind of show I can put together. And, and I don't mean this to sound in any way derogatory towards comics, but what I've learned over the last roughly 14 years now, Almost always the shows I do with comics are the ones that make the least amount of money.
You mean when you're not producing it, when you're being booked?
Yeah. People go, okay, we can fit 40 in there and we do it for $10 a seat and you get this percentage. And it's like, stop giving comedy away. People like it. And if it's a good enough show, they'll pay for it. So I've just produced a lot of shows and I try not to charge less than $20 a person. And I try to get the biggest venue I think I can fill in that city, and I ask for help doing it. I'll post and say, trying to put together a show in whatever, Gunnison, Colorado. Does anybody live there? Anybody know somebody? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just
so your first choice is like an actual performance venue, maybe
honestly, I don't care. I mean, I've done house shows for over 100 people, and like I'll take that check all day over, and even like there's some A rooms that were like, I'm not famous, but they'll have me on a Wednesday or a Sunday or whatever. And they kind of tell me the math and I go, man, I can do a house show for 40 people and make more money than going and even getting a great attendance at this A room.
Right.
So it's not uncommon at all that my house shows are 50 people, 60 people, 40 people. So if I go out, even if I'm just staying regional around here, if I do Thursday in Raleigh, Friday in Winston-Salem, Saturday in Asheville, North Carolina, and Sunday in Charlotte, if I have 40 at one, 50 at another, 30 at another, and even 20 at another, it's like, that's a really good club weekend.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, when you're running the door, that's what I've learned as well. I mean, you just make so much more money. And it's really in comedy, you were talking about like getting famous and having your expenses low. It seems to me like the whole business is about getting butts in seats. And the people who get butts in seats get paid. So if you're famous and you can draw, A rooms will pay you a lot of money.
Oh, sure.
Dave Chappelle comes to Denver and does Comedy Works. He gets 100% of the door. Not everybody gets that deal, but he's getting 100% of the door and they're charging $50, $100 a ticket. It's wild.
Oh yeah.
And adding shows constantly. So he's getting paid because he puts butts in seats. If you go to, Lawrence, Kansas, and you work with a producer there who's been running a monthly show for 6 years and they can draw the crowd that you can't draw, they're the ones making the money. Or if it's the venue that's drawing the people, if they're not coming for you, it's, I hear a lot of people complain about that. And I'm like, well, it's really the ticket revenue that drives everything.
Yeah. I think there ought to be, it would behoove us to develop some sort of standard system that like anything less than this amount is kind of embarrassing and everybody knows it. And that's at least the unspoken etiquette.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, I don't know. I used to hear that like $2 a minute was the bare minimum. So if you're doing 10 minutes, that's $20, which is zero, that's basically.
Yeah. I wouldn't do. Yeah. I mean, and if you're just like running around and starting to do it and you're doing it as a hobby and it's something fun and you get $20 and you buy 4 PBRs and time of your life and feel great about it the next day. That's great. There's a place for that. But I just mean headliners who really want to do it as a living. I think it would be nice to establish sort of a bare minimum. But then there's also the spectrum of people. There's I just started headlining this year. And then there's I have 10 credits and I've been doing it a decade, whatever,
Yeah.
But it would be neat to have some sort of compass for people. And at the end of the day, until you're a big name and you can fill seats, it's not lucrative and you're not always treated great and you don't always feel great about it. You got to really, really love it to stick with it. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people.
So when you run these house shows, how did the financials work? Are you doing the ticketing or do you just offload that on the owner of the house and then they pay you? Or
no, I usually just I make them a flyer just like it's a great show, just like it's any other show, and I try to make them really snazzy. And if it's John's house, it can be John's Comedy Throwdown or Giggles in the Man Cave. I mean, whatever they want to call it is what I'll put on the poster. And I give them everything they need to promote. I'll make a Facebook event. I give them my bio, my photos, clips, same stuff I would give to a comedy club, and just invite your friends. No strangers. Like very rarely does somebody go, okay, invite anybody you want. It's them getting their friends out. And when you think about, I mean, most people that would want to do something like this are at least extroverted enough to probably have some buddies and some family members and neighbors. So, sometimes it's 20 people and sometimes it's 65. But I try to get, like I said, 2, 3, 4 in a region, depending on how good I think they'll be.
And do you bring the sound equipment, light, stuff
Yeah,
like that?
I just have a Fender Passport. It's about the size of a carry-on suitcase, and it's awesome. And it's two hard speakers.
Comes apart in
Yeah,
half.
and so it's very protected because it's all very hard plastic all the way around when it's put together. It sounds good. I bought it used for $100. I bought a brand new mic and mic cord that was like $150. And then I have a couple lights, something like this, but a little more commercial. And those aren't expensive either. I have a couple extension cords, and yeah, I just get them when I give them all the promo. I say, this is my Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Zelle. These are all the ways that people can pay me. And as long as you're not worried, I'm not worried. If it's day of and only 12 people have paid me, but you're real sure 30 people are coming, then I'm not worried.
Okay.
And a lot of people come, and people, it's an honor system. Like if somebody really goes to a house party and refuses to pay the comedian, like that's pretty rare. But if you're that person, then, whatever. But then other people will go, man, that was amazing. And put $100 bill in my hand, so nice. And then occasionally homeowners, not occasionally, probably 20% of the time, homeowners go, hey, we really want to do this, but we don't really feel comfortable asking our friends to pay. We just want to pay you. We're expecting 40 people. Can we give you $800? And if more people come, we'll figure it out. And I always offer it to make people pay individually so that the homeowner can do something really fun and it not cost them $4, $5, $6, $7, $800. Sometimes people are, a surgeon or whatever, and they just don't care.
Right.
I've had people put bands before me. I've had people cater it. Just crazy stuff like you wouldn't believe.
So how would you say, what's the average way of meeting these people? Are they people who came to your shows previously, or they heard of it, or a cousin in a different city did it with you?
So it's very rare that it's not somebody who's already seen me, but occasionally it's somebody who word of mouth found out about it, thought it was a cool idea, then watched my videos and then booked me. And so they haven't seen me live. That's pretty rare, but it's probably going to start getting more common because I'm getting a bigger following on social media. So people are they're going to book me because they just have seen my videos and they've never seen me live. I think there's going to be more of that.
Do you usually do this like a one-man show, or do you?
I usually do, unless I'm in a market where I have like close friends that are comics. But at the same time, I don't want people to come and do comedy with me just because they're my friend. So I want to pay them.
Yeah.
So, then I'm giving people, I try to give people $100, at least $75, whatever, but so it really depends on the show. If the show,
so if you do it as a one man, are you doing an hour, or are you trying to do like 80?
I'll do like an hour 15.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll keep it to an hour if it's, if I'm not like killing, if it seems like, okay, that was good enough, but they're ready to drink and walk around, then I'll cut it. But if it's going really well, I'll do an hour 15. I've done an hour and a half. I'm superfluous, if anything. I've been known to run a light or two, but only when I'm headlining, hopefully.
Right. That's great.
I love it. I love comedy. I love the house show because it's somebody that already likes what I'm doing and what I have to say, and they've now invited a bunch of other people that they think are going to like it too.
So what's the craziest thing that you can remember happening at a house show?
All the craziest things were just things I did, just waking up and being like, oh, whose couch is this, that kind of thing. I've done some partying at these house shows. A lot of times it's a house party and you happen to be doing comedy in the middle, and people drink too much and do everything else too much. There was a stripper pole at one of the house parties. I've definitely just, slept in my van in a lot of people's driveways. And then I'm friends with these people now. You know what I mean? Like,
if you go back to a house, do you go back to a house, and what kind
yeah,
of
there's a few that I've done multiple times. Yeah.
What's the minimum amount of time that you would?
I've only done a few more than once. But there were a couple years between.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mostly indoors?
No, not really. I think mostly backyards.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a seasonal thing. I definitely do more of them in the nice weather, but I have done plenty indoors.
Okay.
I mean, I've done a living room for like 18 pretty conservative looking people in their 60s.
Okay.
At Christmas time. And it's like, this isn't easy. But I'm there because they really like my comedy and they really want me there. So they're going to be supportive.
Yeah.
But there's times when you're like, this is not enough people. This would be enough young, energized people. This is not enough tired old people.
Yeah.
There've been some weird ones. And then one of the most fun ones I've done, the two most fun were the one that was over 100 that was at my buddy's like crazy hippie compound. And the other of my favorite was 18 people in a living room outside of Detroit, Michigan. And they were just a fun group. The one guy just had the craziest, funniest laugh. And it just got he laughed at every joke.
Such a difference. Last week I did a show with 10 people in a room that fits probably 30. So pretty small, not a huge room. Yeah. And it was the most fun show of the week. Rare. I did a show the next night with like 80 people, which was good. People were drinking. It was fun. But the show with 10 people was better because 3 of the people were the best laughers ever.
Yeah.
And they were having so much fun. It was wild.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to beat.
Yeah. Any booking wins for you? Like anything you were real excited about, a milestone?
Not necessarily milestone, like recently, you mean?
Sure, or any time during your career.
Well,
I sold out.
Yeah, I've had some good ones. I did the Wilbur Theater in Boston for, I think that one's 1,800 people. I did that for Comedy Central up next. It was like me and maybe 7 other comics. I did that like 2 years into comedy, and I thought, I'm about to be famous. Here we are.
Did anybody from that group? Is that anybody that I would know?
Nimesh Patel went on to do some big stuff. Jenny Zagrino's doing well.
Oh, I know Jenny real well. I worked with her a bunch.
I did it with her. Joe Pera kind of had some stuff on Comedy Central. I don't know how much he tours.
He's doing real well. He sells out Comedy Works.
Joe Pera.
And I'm not quite sure why. His comedy is not for me.
Yeah, it's very dry.
Yeah.
People
love him.
Yeah, what I told him that night was I was like really tickled by such an old Southern word, but I was totally catching it. Whatever he was doing, I was totally like everything was working on me. And I told him that night, I was like, man, it's very hard to be different in comedy, and you're being different. And I have so much respect for that.
Yeah, he's had TV shows, and he has.
Yeah, I knew he had. I wasn't sure how that was. Evening out on the touring, and I haven't seen him on as many calendars as I thought I would. But and then Tom Dustin was in the crew. He now
he's about to be famous maybe because of the Joe List movie.
Yep. Yeah, I was just texting with him this week.
Do you do that Key West Club? Have you ever done that?
Yeah, I've done that a couple of times. I've done it once at the old location and at least once at the new location. Maybe I've either been there 2 or 3 times. I'm not sure. And I'm trying to get back there now.
How did you get that Wilbur Theater thing? Where did somebody see you?
It was Comedy Central. It was through Comedy Central.
Right. But how did they find you?
I won the Southeast regionals that were held in Charlotte. So it was like the club staff and people got to vote on. I don't remember how many comics it was. Maybe 10. They were kind of handpicked by the club owner, I guess, and I was one of them, and then he picked me to go forward.
Nice.
Brian Heffron at Comedy Zone, he's looked out for me a lot. I don't work for them as much as I used to, but he's been good to me. And then I won Best of the Fest at Slow Comedy Festival. We got to perform in front of 1,000. And then recently that was at the theater downtown San Luis Obispo. And then recently I did with Ronnie Cheng from The Daily Show. I opened for him at the Charleston Music Hall in Charleston. That was 2,500, I think.
Wow.
That was cool. But the thing I'm most excited about is last November, I sold out the theater in my hometown. It's called Thalian Hall, and it's like a historic, legendary theater. At one time, it was like one of the best theaters in the country a couple hundred years ago. And we sold it out, 550 seats. And we recorded a 5-camera comedy special. And it's like, I mean, it doesn't look as good as stuff on Netflix. It looks better than stuff on Netflix.
I watched a little bit of it. It looks amazing. It's incredible. It's really
the
good.
Intro and the outro, I'm really proud of. I mean, I'm proud of the comedy, of course, but I'm proud of like the cinematography of the intro, the outro.
How involved in that were you? Did you pay a company to do that, or how?
Yeah. Well, I paid them what I could, and now we're in bed together on that thing for as long as it lives. And we all got our fingers crossed. They took a big leap of faith. They took a big swing on me, and I'm super grateful for them. They're called Lighthouse Films. They're out of Wilmington, North Carolina, where I live, but they do stuff nationally. They do commercials for Twisted Tea and Nissan and Michelin and Ford and Chase Bank. They do TV shows and movies. Like
was that their first comedy special?
That was their first comedy special. Yeah. And we've said from the beginning, if we can get it to finally do what we hoped it would do financially, that I would be willing to sort of do a little offshoot lighthouse comedy and start producing some comedy specials. So
nice.
We'll see. This one's got to kind of earn its keep first.
What's the goal? Like, it's out on YouTube. Why don't you pitch it real quick? What's it called?
Yeah, it's called The Long Road. A lot of it is about sort of what I talked about tonight: losing everything, living out of a car, traveling full time, doing whatever it takes to get by, and just stories about life. There's a little political stuff in there that people will either really love or really hate. Depends on what you think morals and ethics are. But anyway, I'm really proud of it. It's called The Long Road. It's on YouTube now. We thought we'd be able to get it to Netflix, but basically right when we got this thing ready to go, Netflix wasn't buying comedy specials at all. Hulu had already finished for the year. HBO just like isn't doing much comedy. That's not their exact niche, which we thought this could be. And then Amazon, I don't know. I can't remember what the deal was with Amazon, but we kind of really only wanted it on one of those 4 networks. But we wanted it out before the election because of the political stuff. So we just said, hey, we're going to self-release it. And it's possible that it gets big.
Yeah, I've seen Hulu snap up a couple of things that are on YouTube for free already. So
that's what we're hoping is going to happen this spring. But I don't know for sure. But I mean, it's got, the special itself only has like 85,000 views maybe, but across clips we're already over 2 million. And that was, we just got it up like in October, at the end of October. So
that's incredible. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, about 2 months, we're well over 2 million views across clips. One got up to like 880 or something, and some others have gotten up to around 300 or more. So yeah, we're just going to keep doing that. I'm cannibalizing the special. I'm just clipping it up in every different permutation and trying different hooks to drag people in. Yeah. And we're just posting almost every day. And
yeah, it's a full-time job.
It is. I got somebody helping me with that, and I do everything else myself. So I run like 6 social medias and a website. My girlfriend helps me with the website. My brother. I run all the social medias, and then that guy does that. And I do all my own booking, posters, ticket links, Facebook events.
What do you ticket with? Eventbrite?
I use Ticket Leap, and I've always been really pleased with it. Huh. They just changed their interface, and it's a little more cumbersome than it used to be. I don't love it, but I'm hoping that I'm going to get used to it. So far, it's just kind of been I don't know. It's just been the best deal and the best setup for me. I really liked the way it was interfacing before this new change, but yeah.
Cool. All right. Any last parting words or sage wisdom for road warriors out there?
For road warriors out there, like just network, like kind of try to know who lives where and try and be friends with people, don't just call somebody when you need something, but look out for people and try and keep up with them on social media and know what they're dealing with. And if you can, a genuine friendship is a lot more valuable than just somebody that saw you do well on stage one time. And more than anything, you got to really love it. If you don't love it to the point where you just like, I just can't do anything but this, it's got to be like, this is the thing I'm meant to do and I have to do it and I can't stop no matter what. You better have that or go ahead and stop doing it.
Yeah. You'll be happier.
Honestly, yeah. And you can still do it for fun and you can still book shows and provide a good paying stop for somebody who couldn't help but do it because they just didn't have another option. Their brain and body wouldn't let them stop. Yeah. I've almost quit a lot. It's really discouraging. I was feeling really discouraged about 2 weeks ago. And I told my girlfriend, I said, the special's it's just stagnant at 28,000 views. And like, I hoped it would get to 100 before now and blah, blah, blah. And 2 weeks later, it's at like 85,000. And, I kind of didn't know what I was going to do this spring because I thought the special would have really crushed by now. And I would have had all these people begging me to come play their rooms. And I was a little worried about money. And then I met a guy who knows a guy and they booked me for like 10 Royal Caribbean cruises.
Oh man.
Which is not like.
Have you done cruises before?
I've done Carnival cruises and that's pretty brutal. That's pretty brutal. You sleep in a coat closet with a homeless person that doesn't even know they're on a ship and there's no window. And usually the anchor is directly below your bed. And so you can hear that being lowered each day. Carnival is kind of brutal. But again, if you need the money and that's your option and it's going to help you financially, you do whatever you got to do. But I kind of swore off cruises after Carnival. I quit Carnival and just did not want to do it anymore. And this guy's like, well, the rooms are nicer, the money's better, blah, blah, blah. So I just finished my first one and the rooms are, exponentially nicer. And the ship was mind blowing. I mean, literally water park, climbing walls, a literal park in the middle of the ship where you're in the park and there's plants and trees and you look up 10 stories and see the top of see the sky. You know? It's like a giant 10-story atrium in the middle of a cruise ship. I mean,
that's amazing.
And the shows are fun. A cruise crowd is a little harder because it's often somewhat international. And they're not necessarily a comedy club crowd. Some of these, they might not necessarily go to comedy clubs when they're on land.
Yeah. Whereas
when you're in a comedy club, a lot of those people see comedy somewhat regularly, Yeah. So it's a little harder work and you go up cold. Like this week, I was 2 comedians and Jim Collington out of Massachusetts, great guy, really funny. And he goes, yeah, we'll flip back and forth. And I go, man, you've been doing it for 30 years. You deserve to headline. I'll open. And I regretted it right away. I will never do that again. I'm just Mr. Nice Guy, and it just always bites me in the ass. And Jim was awesome. He would have switched with me, but I was like, nope, I said it and I'm sticking to it. But it's hard going up ice cold and doing, I do it at the house shows all the time. I go up ice cold and do an hour and a half. Yeah. But it's people who either sort of know me or are birds of a feather and people like really want to hear what I have to say. Whereas on the cruise ship, I'm just trying to remember all the things I shouldn't say.
Right. Yeah.
It's not, I'm doing my stuff that I think will work and be acceptable. So it was hard. It was a little bit hard, but it was good. It's good money.
Well, 9 more to go.
Yeah, man. I'll be real tan by the end of the winter.
Nice. All right. Let's wrap this up. How can people find you?
I am at Clifton Cash Comedy on every platform. the thing that means more than anything to me is my special. It's called The Long Road, and it's Cliff Cash Comedy on YouTube. It's the biggest thing I've ever done. I mean, it's got some political stuff. It's got some heartfelt life stuff. It's got a message, and I like to think that it's, comedy and a little something else, that it's more like, my slogan is more than just funny. Like, I want to say something. I want you to feel something. And I think this special really accomplishes that. And I'm proud of that.
That's awesome, Cliff. It's been great to get to know you. Stick around for a second. Everybody tune in next Monday. We'll be back.